What happens when we die? What does the afterlife have to do with living life on earth as we are living it right now? We're going to find out that and more today on Accentuate the Positive Media, Awakening Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM with the amazing Craig and Julie McMahon. Stay tuned. Coming up.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
G'day, and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. Look at these two beautiful people I've got in the house today, Craig and Julie McMahon. Welcome to this show. So wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here. So happy to be here.
We've been yakking already for about 20 minutes off camera, and we've got a few internet glitches, so there might be a bit of time delay. Because Julie and Craig are on the east coast of the States and you've had some wild weather over there, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, there's lots of energy going on right now, but the community is coming together. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to see the support. So, we didn't expect to be in the situation, but we're just so amazed at what people do for one another.
Absolutely. A couple of years ago, we had massive floods here in Australia as well, and whole towns were wiped out up north in Queensland. And I've got a lot of friends in that community up there. And I said, tell me what's been happening. And they said, well, apart from everything, the community coming together to help each other, like the way people came together to help each other was just so beautiful. Yeah. Well, who have we got? Pocknell. Morning, Karen. Morning, darling one. Michelle, hello. Hi, everyone. Michelle saying hi. We've got a few peeps tuning in already. Great to see you all online. Let me tell you a little bit about Julie and Craig. I mean, these two, they've actually been on the show very briefly before when I had Paul King on the show talking about the Afterlife convention that is coming up in, just realised I haven't got my thing plugged in. I'll still talk. Coming up in June next year, and hopefully Julie and Craig will come down and say hi to us. Maybe you'll speak at the convention. Who knows? We'll have to get that organised. But they have extensive work. Let me just read their bios. Craig McMahon created the television series Life to Afterlife, which embodies research and interviews exploring the afterlife and its relationship to life's purpose. His content also includes positive, uplifting spiritual motion pictures, which are amazing. I've been geeking out on the content all weekend, actually. And Julie is a Reiki master, a divine soul who works with the Council of Light, assisting connections to the spirit world, helping restore harmony, balance and alignment to the world. She works directly with many who have had major tragic life events that feel the loss or disconnection from their soul. Her mission is to help humanity remember the purpose of life is love and that the transition of death is only a continuum. Actually, Julie's got an amazing story which we'll talk about. Craig and Julie met at the deepest part of Julie's awakening just 3 months after the transition of her beautiful son, Dakota, which was only in 2021, right? That was like quite recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we spoke briefly about it on the show a few weeks ago, but I didn't know when it happened. Like I didn't actually know any of the story. And then, as I said, I was geeking out on all your shows. I'm like, wow, this happened really recently.
It did.
Where am I up?
Yes.
And you two, Julie had a profound transcendence shift in her awareness, a full out of body experience when she saw Dakota's body the night of his death. Through the transition of Dakota, she transcended the grief process and speaks of a new way to evolve through the understanding of death and love, and speaks on the untruths of the grief process, which I'm hearing you. I can't tell you how many times I'm hearing you there. Julie and Craig are soulmates who came together at a pivotal point in time through destiny, an example of unity consciousness where two souls merge together, expressing themselves as one. They think together, evolving together, create a vesica of harmony and love. Julie and Craig's mission is to assist through their work the transformation of the multidimensional human that is a part of the new earth. And I'll show the YouTube channel, but the YouTube channel is called Life to Afterlife Spirituality Series. And there's a slew of movies on there. There's some great movies on there. Craig, of you interviewing people that have had near-death experiences and people that are researching the afterlife, like Robert Schwartz, who I've had on the show, Isabel Johnson, Alison Dubois, who is made known by the television series called Medium that was based on her work as a medium. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes. Susan Gisman, James Van Praagh, Howard Storm, Erica McKenzie. God, there's so many people. Hello from England, Steph says. And and Shirley's here. She calls herself Warwood. Yeah, happy to be here too. So many miracles, synchronicities. Yes, community. So where do we start with all of this? Maybe, Craig, we start with you. How did you get into making movies about the afterlife or making movies in general?
Well, it really wasn't my idea. I was happy making movies. I was actually driving on the freeway and I kept getting this like, we're trying to connect with you. And it was a bunch of beings of light that just basically said, you need to start making content and start spreading the word about, spirituality and everything like that. And it wasn't real, how could I say this? I was kind of like, what is this all about? So I basically just shifted into making family movies, uplifting, inspiring, God's message, kind of thing, weaved into parables, I guess you could say. And the beings of light just kind of came to me and said, you need to make content. You can get it to the bigger platforms and reach a lot of people. You're really good at that. So you need to do that. So I just started to, I asked them, I said, is this going to be well received? How's it going to go? And they just said, don't worry, we got your back. So I just went with it. And it's interesting because when I was in my 20s, I was meditating quite a bit, like a little too much, 6 hours a day. And this profound voice said, we're going to connect with you later on. Go live your life. We're going to connect with you later on. Now I know what they were talking about. So now here it is. And so they just, I came up with the Life to Afterlife spirituality series to interview everybody that's in the wheelhouse of spirituality and get their word out. Because especially the near-deathers, they have such a profound experience to, relay to everybody that what we're doing now really matters.
Absolutely. Now I understand why you and Paul connected, because, Paul got the call from Spirit too, because I've really quizzed him about this. So Paul's putting on this big afterlife convention in Sydney next year, and he hired one of Sydney's biggest event centres that, that holds about 5,000 people. It's the first time he's put on an event like this. And I'm like, what were you thinking, Paul? Like, why did you go so big so soon? And he said, I was told to. And basically you were told to as well, right, Craig?
Yeah, I was concerned because there, when you look at the platforms like Amazon and Tubi, there really was no space for it at the time. There was no such thing. They're interested in dramas, romance, sci-fi, action, and there was really no place for it. So I wasn't really sure how I was going to weave my little spot in, my get right in there, and
absolutely
it worked. It worked really well.
It did. But when you started, like, it was a slow process. Like, you didn't like arrive on the scene with a bang and have millions of views straight up. It was like an evolving process, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Death and Back, it took a while to get people to warm up to it, you know, because it's a lot of the material is channeled too. So a lot of that stuff was really not so much me. It was them, the divine channeling, you know, they were directing me, literally directing me. And they've been directing me pretty much on all of this stuff because they want this material to get out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, when I met Paul about the conference, and he was going so big so soon, I just figured that the guides have always said to me that this work will get out and that they will direct it and that millions of people will come across it, because we're going through the great awakening of humanity. It's time. And so I see you nodding there, Julian. I figured, well, then it's time for a massive, coming together of people in Sydney. It's the time. It must be time to do this. How we're going to do it, that's another story. But yeah, it's time. I noticed that on your YouTube channel you haven't posted for a couple of years. Is that you haven't made anything for a couple of years? What's going on there? Why is that? Why?
Well, we were living in Arizona, and we were working on content, and then we decided to move to North Carolina into the mountains, and we built 2 off-grid homes. And so that's what we've been really busy just working on, getting these 2 homes put together. So it's been really difficult to do any content,
Yeah, we came out here and immersed for 2 years in nature. So as the lighthouse, we came out here and we physically built homes and gardens and spent time with these waterfalls. And so we took time to just connect. And we're about to emerge back out. The project's complete that we came here to do. And, we had this storm of the century come through, and what we build is completely sustainable. It has its own electric and its own water. And so again, the divine kind of gave us this opportunity to go up in the mountain, and we kind of conquered a lot of physicality, a lot of the physical realm by building these houses ourselves and with others, of course. And then the storm came through and kind of showed us the whole picture as to what we've been doing the last 2 years. So wow. We have a lot of immersion that's come through what we've been doing. I know the public doesn't know about it yet, but there is a lot that's going to emerge from these 2 years that we've been up in the mountain.
Because I know the last video that you put out on the YouTube channel is Life to Afterlife, Living Free, which is actually the story of how you 2 came together and built the house and then moved to where you are now. I thought that was fabulous. I posted it all over Facebook. I thought that was wonderful. But yeah, I was reading the comments and somebody said, why haven't you posted more videos? And I'm like, oh yeah, they haven't posted more videos in a while. So I thought I'd quiz you on that one.
Yeah.
Well, we really explored sovereignty. We have solar power. Our water is from the well. We create heat in our radiant floor. We're totally all about passive solar. So we really honored all that earthship kind of thing, and it's a part that we really needed to explore because of the new earth that's happening, and actually working with Gaia. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Instead of just mistreating it, we said, how can we work with Gaia? And so that's what we've been doing. And also we've immersed ourselves into, I don't know if you're familiar, we did foods that cure disease, which was basically introducing the whole plant-based life. And now we're starting to learn more because we're constantly channeling, and it must be just because how we are. But there's this food that we're eating is amazing, because we've really kind of gotten more into, so we're going to do another documentary about foods, and it's going to introduce more of the value of fruit and different vibrations and all kinds of wonderful things, right, babe?
Yeah. The new downloads that we've uncovered during this adventure we've been on.
I know you're busy people, absolutely busy people. So let's get into your story, Julie, with Dakota, and then how you met, because you met Craig after that happened, right? I mean, basically what happened pushed you two together, didn't it?
Yeah, it had an extreme fast track of so Dakota passed away March 20th suddenly, and I got a call, so I had to go up, and it was surreal getting the news of my reality changing so suddenly, and I fell into it. So as I was experiencing having to go up the steps to see him, I just was so aware of everything, like, because something so big just opened me up. So I went up, and it was like, I knew as a nurse that I would see him. And that moment, I was able to be consumed by how much love transcends the body when there's no breath in it. And it's so immensely powerful. And Dakota and I were very close. So there wasn't a day that we didn't talk or have this beautiful relationship. And I was already on my journey of figuring out my purpose here and what life is about. And so all of that like ended up at this trajectory point of being faced with him laying before me. And I just felt gratitude, so much overwhelmed by just the gift of him, the person that he was. And that moment, I absolutely felt half in, half out of my body. And I just trusted. I literally just fell into the trust of it all. And I'll fast forward because my story is out there and I don't want to totally re-say it. But on the third day of his death, he contacted me through someone else. I got a phone call and they said, did something happen to Dakota, this person I hadn't told? And I said, yes. And they said, well, I have someone here that needs to speak to you. And she channeled. Dakota told me everything. He told me, there is no death. There is no death. As the first thing he said to me, there is no death. I'm okay. And he also told me everything that happened because there was a lot of unknowns around his death that this reality hadn't caught up with. So he told me what happened, that he was fine. And that trust, because I was so open to receive it, I guess just, and it is, I do believe that there's this 3-day process that the soul goes through, and they are able to reach out to you on the third day. I mean, Jesus even kind of taught us this. But from there, I felt a strong call to make a movie, like this strange, like, I got to make a movie about this. Like, I was just, Dakota was into music and the arts. And I wrote Craig an email on his website, and I was putting all these thoughts. I was channeling so much music and thoughts and deep. And within those first 6 months, Dakota was contacting me a lot. Like, I was getting so many downloads, even though I was shattered. I mean, the physical body, I mean, I was a mother that was feeling the physical pain of his death, but my spirit was completely out of body. It was like I had two perspectives. I had the person that's in this physical body, and then I had my soul, which was completely online, as if you just flipped a switch inside me. And it was all led by the love. I'm telling you, it was like this love that you have for someone and not the pain, because the pain is inevitable, but you could see past it. This like love that exists beyond boundaries is real. And I think it was my surrender when I was going up there. I didn't think about me. I didn't even have a body. So I think that's what happens to the people that leave their body, because I know what that feels like. And then the way that we met was just so serendipitous in the fact that I was wanting to make this movie, but instead it was really a phone call to him, and you can tell what was going on in your life, but he says like a bell went off in him. And the funny thing, I'll tell you a little cute part of our story is that when Dakota was alive, because I was a single mom for a very long time, so I had a lot of one-on-one with him. He was 19. He only lived the age of a child. So you're 19. By the time you turn 20, you're an adult. And I didn't meet my soulmate until after our life together. But during our life together, we would joke, and he would say, you know, do you think, Mom, that he's just going to come up to your door one day and knock and be standing there with roses? And I said, that's exactly what he's going to do. That is exactly what he's going to do, Dakota. And Dakota would laugh at me like, you got to get out. Like that's going to happen.
Well, come on, Craig, spill the beans.
You know, it's so inappropriate to bring flowers to a female that you're interviewing. It's just, you're breaking a barrier there. And I was driving, you know, because I was in Phoenix. I was driving down to Tucson. And as I came into Tucson, I'm like, I'm hearing this voice, you know, just saying, get some flowers. I'm like, okay. And then my rational mind was like, this is not cool. She's going to get the wrong idea. You don't do that, you know? And I really had no choice. I had no choice at all. So Dakota was, you know, at the time I didn't know who it was. I just knew that it was like, this is important. Just do it. She'll understand it and you'll get the story later. I had no idea. So I pulled up to the house and there's a front door, right? You know, and you don't go through that door. That has a doorbell. Go to this other door and knock. And I'm like, what the heck? Why? I got these flowers and I'm told to knock. That's how spirit works. Yeah, I was actually directed to do all this and to get her to realize that
you're my soulmate. But of course, when we first met, we were, you know, like we look back on it and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, he came to a side door that was a wooden door and knocked. It was a door you can't even see from the front of the street. And he had these dozen red roses, which is the roses that Dakota would get me with no baby's breath. And it was just, and he was standing there for the first time I saw him. And I was just like, hi, you know, and at the time I didn't realize what was happening, but quickly, you know, you just know, you recognize a soul when you see them. You recognize your soulmate very quickly. And it's another piece of the divine that's perfectly orchestrated and seamlessly falls into place. It's usually not what you're looking for, even though it's the thing your heart has always known is the real, you know, the real love, the true love, the part that that's balanced.
Oh my God, what an amazing story. So yeah, the joke that you and Dakota had about, what do you think, Mum? He's just going to come up to the door and knock holding a bunch of flowers. And that's exactly what he directed you to do, Craig, like from spirit. You got the message and you followed the direction.
Yeah. And the thing is, it just went against so many rational ideas. You're like, she's going to get the wrong idea. She's going to think I'm being very fresh. And that's going to put, I have a professionalness about me. I don't do that. You know, that's not something you do. You don't show up to a woman's house and interview with flowers. They're going to get a weird idea and it's going to set you off in a strange trajectory. But it was like, you know.
And that's only one of like several things that came out later. Several things that just were so, you know, that just were ironic, you know, like you had made a movie about a character, Dakota, that died. And
wow.
So I, you know, writing a screenplay, I'm channeling actually. And so you got like an idea, like, well, what should be the name of the sister? Dakota. Well, that's not a female's name. It's kind of a male's name, but I did it anyway. And so when the character was on the plane, I was writing another part of a scene where the flight attendant was saying, something about, are you married? Do you have kids? Yeah, I have 2 sons. One of them is named Dakota. And so it's like, so we talked about the name, about the name Dakota. And so anyway, I won't give away the movie, but it pivots around, this name Dakota, which is just not I don't get these names. They give them to me, like I don't really write them out. They come to me. So this is well before I met them,
Yeah. Oh, amazing. We were talking about before we went live how they all get together, because I was saying that just as they came on, a little bip, came on the streaming service, I was looking at a Facebook message from Elisa Med, who's saying how she misses Eric, who was her son that died. I think he probably died about 10 years ago, and he shot himself, and now he is a spirit guide and he directs her, and they are doing amazing things in the world. And that's a similar story to Dakota. And Craig, you were saying that they all get together. Do you want to just repeat what you said about how they all get together when, and orchestrate all this stuff down on Earth?
So when I was getting familiar with the 20 or so parents that lost children, it all came in Phoenix. So I actually sat with them and got to know them really well. And the kids kind of started to hang around with me, and I'm totally cool with that. I'm very comfortable with spirit around. So I gave them freedom to play and do whatever, change my screensaver without asking me on my telephone, all kinds of funny things that they would do. And they started to communicate with me off on my own time, because they would, like hang around with me, and you're going to be interviewing my mom and dad, and, I want to get to know you, and, and they see Helping Parents Heal is a world organization where parents all kind of get together that have lost children. And so they're a community, and they all think like a unit, like one. And so the children actually started to communicate with me and said, there's the exact same thing in the afterworld, where all these kids are working together, because there's the other side of it, which is, let's say a newly departed transitions into that area. And if they're linked any with Helping Parents Heal, they automatically are linked into, hey, just want to let you know that we're the Helping Parents kids up in the afterlife, helping our parents, your parents, what you're going through. And they would teach them all kinds of things and help them, guide them along. They're all like super guides. It just kind of blew me away at the way that, so I relayed that to the parents, and they're like, yeah, we know. Gosh, so you guys are all aware of this. So why don't you guys talk about it more? Because it was so beautiful that all these parents would get together, and it's such an interesting, they invited me to several of their, events, like dinners and stuff like that. And I was just, it was so beautiful, because they were genuinely listening to each other. I mean, it was just, they were so angelic, these parents. So they got this like, I don't know, this ascension pass. I don't know how it just happened. So when you go to an event and you talk to them, they're not talking about materialism. They're not talking about that. They're actually listening to each other. And they were all somewhat happy and cheerful and very positive and supportive. And so I think we briefly went into it in the documentary, Mom, Can You Hear Me Now? And that was another thing too, like the title. I didn't really pick that title, the kids. I actually got an actual message. It was an EVP with a parent of the documentary, and the child said, "Mom, can you hear me now?" And I was like, there's the title, helping parents. It was Life to Afterlife. Mom, can you hear me now? So that's how I started to just roll. Let it channel itself, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, there it is there on the you've got all these movies free, which is so beautiful, on YouTube, and also you're on Tubi TV, which is the Life to Afterlife, Mum, Can You Hear Me Now official full movie, and you've got the trailer there as well. Yeah, it's so beautiful that you're putting it all out.
We even have the Spanish. We even have the Spanish version. Can you hear me?
Beautiful. Yep.
Great.
Tech issues. Yeah, we were talking about the tech before, and how spirit has an amazing ability to manipulate tech, because Craig had a show called Spirit Box, right, where spirit would do EVPs on some sort of radio. I really don't know what was going on there, but they were basically manipulating electricity to talk so that we could physically hear them. But just before they came on the show, I was saying that I had Judith Collins on the show last week, who reads auras, and she said because she reads auras, she can see that who's lying. And I said, well, I'm lying now because I'm using this AI tech to make myself look younger. And that's a lie, because I don't really look as young, when you meet me in person. And then this morning, there's a button on the StreamYard that says, touch up your appearance. It would not work. And Craig and Julie said, we set the intention for complete authenticity and truth before we came on. And so the touch up my appearance button didn't work. I thought that was hilarious. But do you want to talk about the spirit box? What's all that's all about? How does that work? How does spirit use electricity to communicate so that we can verbally hear them?
So it's not really any new technology. Nikola Tesla was working on it all over 100 years ago, and he kind of shelved it because he didn't think that at the time that people would really be receptive to it, because it was really strange to hear disembodied voices with actual, an intelligence. So I was just going about my content, making whatever. And I don't really know much about Charlie Chaplin. Forgive me, Charlie. I didn't really watch your movies, but he just started to hang around. And I think it might've been because he also made movies, acted in them, yada, yada, yada. And he said, we would like you to get, this, EVP type, stuff where we can get voices coming through. So, of course, Nikola Tesla started to communicate with me, and Albert Einstein. And so, of course, I was like, well, this could be really weird because I don't know anything about all this stuff, and it could be attracting a lot of I have no idea. And they all reassured me that it will be fine. And so Archangel Michael stepped in, and he became the bouncer. And so I was okay. I felt good about it. And it basically is just letting spirit manipulate babble. So it's inaudible audio. And they rearrange all the, from digital to analog, back and forth. And they are able to manipulate it to, I can ask a question, I play the babble, and they rearrange it so it's actually makes sense. So I was like, okay, this is cool. So I just went ahead and start doing interviews with people in the afterlife. It could be anyone from Marilyn Monroe to Buddha to Michael Jackson to, Princess Diana, and who was, I can't even remember. It's been so long ago. But yeah, they just basically spoke from the other side and tried to reassure everybody that, like Robin Williams, the first thing he said, Craig, there is no death.
Yeah.
It's so funny,
Yeah.
and I'm human. So I'm trying to ask these questions like a human. And they're, like I asked Jesus, I said, what would you like me to refer to you as? Because there's Jesua, there's all these different names. And he goes, what's in a name? Kind of thing. And so they're just so funny. Like, why are you focused on a name? Get with it, kind of thing. So it's just, I think there's two documentaries. I think they're on Tubi.
Yeah, I was looking for them on YouTube, and I couldn't find them. The Spirit Box, because I know I've seen it. I've seen you do it on, and I'm sure it was on.
So we took them down from YouTube.
Oh, you took them down. I gotcha.
Yeah, we're gearing up for some new stuff. That's
Yeah. So that was a while ago that you did Spirit Box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get into too much paranormal. You know what I mean? I didn't want to get too deep into paranormal, and it kind of had that audience a little bit. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that was my story too. Like, I was 16 and my mother transitioned. She died of cancer, and she used to come to me and tell me there is no death. I didn't die. But to the 16-year-old me, 16, 17, 18, 19, I don't know, she used to come repeatedly in dreams and tell me she wasn't dead. I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. So I had to find out. And that's something that, everyone that you've spoken to, Craig, and something that Dakota said when you first, Julie, had that really amazing conversation with him after he's dead. There is no death. I didn't die. Tell us what else he said about dying and the afterlife and what happens.
What Dakota has shared with me?
Yeah.
So Dakota has shared that, that everything is correlated. It's one of the things that he likes to use words that I think I know, but there's a bigger context to them. And I think that's the thing that we always need to remind ourselves, is that don't play so small, because everything has a small and a larger meaning. So everything is correlated. So the minute that you have a desire, it's another word he uses, like a desire, which to me, I translate that to a wellspring in the heart. Something comes up in you. It is automatically going. It's traveling. It's connecting to something else. So everything is correlated. Everything is connected. When they're in their soul, he says it's really easy to speak through what he refers to as the God stream. And the God stream is the clouds, the birds, the leaves, the wind, music. So anything that is easily received is that's why it's very popular to get signs of a rock or a cloud in a certain shape or a rainbow. And when you speak the phenomenal language, you can get really, your soul actually starts to come forward, and you start forgetting that you're in just this body, which is basically a computer to interpret experience. So he's really taught me the language of the soul. And I just think that we're living in a time where everybody has this gift. You don't necessarily have to go through tragedy to receive it. I think that we're all becoming more multidimensional, which is helping thin the veil to understanding that thing that you just said, that there is no death. So the more that we do that, we're going to continue to close the gap on the need to keep birth and re-death going, or birth and death going. And we'll get more closer to that everlasting life that the gurus talk about, that eternal aspect to us. So he, through our love and the bonds that we built in this lifetime, those are what we call our soul family on the other side. So the stronger the bonds, the more intact, the more that you collaborate together, the more you join together, the more and that's what love is here. It's all relationship in this planet. This world was created for us to experience relationship and love in action. So the more compassion you are, the more that you relate to others, the more you can experience God. And these are just a few things that he has grown my heart to understand on a whole bigger level than what I thought I knew before when he was here. So I always like to joke that people, their kids are going to college. Well, my kid's fast tracking me to ascension, you know?
Yeah,
So, you know, he's not
absolutely.
getting that college degree, but he's given me a wonderful gift. And I wish he was here, but he is here. He's just teaching me to be bigger than my little self,
Yeah,
which would have been just his
absolutely.
mother. Yeah,
You've got 2 sons, haven't you? You've got another son?
I do.
Yeah.
And now I have,
And what,
we have a, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what's his
Tristan.
name? Your other Tristan, is it?
Yeah. So Tristan, and he just had a baby. So
Oh,
I have a
wow.
grandson now. We have a grandson, yeah, and a
Is
granddaughter.
Tristan older or younger than Dakota is?
Older. He's the
He
older
was older.
brother.
And
Yeah.
how did he, because I mean, we talk about in the bio, you said, transcending grief. And you said that you were still in pain, but also there was you could move through the pain really easily by just connecting to the love from the other side that was coming at you, and thick and strong, and that was like melting your pain. What about Tristan? Was he doing the same thing? Did he go on that journey with you, or was he in the grief process? How did all that work?
Well, he was in the grief process. And so he was, as an older brother, was having the typical kind of guilt. My baby brother passed. The way that Dakota passed was very, he was articulating the fundamentals of it, which is what most people do in the grief process. But what's interesting is that while Tristan was having a typical grief experience, I was not. So as he's living that experience, he's watching me and learning through me, because he was relying on me as a single parent. The 2 boys and I, we were one unit before Dakota's transition. So he was watching my life change drastically, and all of this. And now he's up here with us. And he says to me, which is interesting, because he followed Craig and I and followed us and has stayed close to us. And he has said, I have the most beautiful life, because we built him a house next to us. And he said, I look around and I wouldn't have any of this if my brother hadn't transitioned the way he did, because his life as well just got turned upside down and went in a completely different direction. And that's one thing that I encourage people: when you have someone extremely close to you transition like that, any loved one, follow those impulses to go in that new direction, because it blends that purpose of it all into the transformation that's supposed to come from the growth inside the pain. Pain can be experienced differently. So pain is pain, but there is something inside it. It leads you somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a message, there's guidance, there's ultimately there's love inside of it. Grief, I completely agree with you about grief, and lots of people argue with me about this. It's like, no, you have to go through that grief process. It's natural, it's normal, it's just the way it's got to be. But when you transcend your identity of who you are as the mother or the sister or the lover or the relationship you had with the person who has transitioned, and you return to your true identity as an extension of source, grief doesn't exist anymore. Like, grief doesn't exist anymore, but it's in that identity. I watch Elisa do this with channeling Eric. Eric's been gone for over 10 years, and she speaks to him on a daily basis through mediums and through herself. But when she goes into the identity of the mother, I'm his mother and he died, then she's in suffering. But when she's doing her work in the world, presenting messages from spirit, and like you, Craig, they interview people in the afterlife, like Prince and celebrities and people that have died. Usually they jump on it straight away. Someone dies, some sort of well-known person, and she's interviewing them in the afterlife, about a week or 2 after they've transitioned. It's fantastic. It's hilarious. But so when she's in that role of the job, like bringing this wisdom and to humanity, she's not in grief at all, and she's connected to her son in the afterlife. Yeah. So it's in that identity, like, who are you? Who are you identifying with? And that that formulates the grief or not. Yeah, wouldn't you say?
I
Julia
agree
and
with
Craig?
you. I totally agree with you, because one of the things that I realized in my writing, because I started writing early, like the first couple days he died, was I referred to myself as an oblivion. Like there was absolutely not a single piece of me that was in an organized fashion to what it once was. So in that, as you're saying, disidentity, this unidentified person, is where you can now just open up to what is. And if you can take that step, the thing that will meet you on the other side will surprise you, because you will meet God in that space. I refer to it as a field of grace that opens up before you, because you're actually led. The only thing that's required is for you to take one step in that direction, and the rest is completely pulled through the heart. So you have to just sort of surrender to trust that you know nothing, and that you are going to follow your loved one. And if you can do that, they will connect with you. They will show up. It's like what you said, when you start to close in that funnel of those heavier, dense emotions, and then let the mind dictate the reality, you will find yourself in separation. And that is all the so-called grief process is separated from the very thing that you want. So you don't have to experience depression. You don't have to go through these stages. I absolutely, from my experience, and I'm only speaking from my own, and Craig interviewed a lot of people that have had some experiences. And I think the more that we start talking about, it's okay. It doesn't mean you love them any less because you're not in a bed, not getting out for weeks and years on end. It actually means that you're following them through the death process. And it opens up the phenomenal plane. It opens up the keys to the kingdom of heaven. It opens up the afterlife. If you just are willing to trust that they will lead you, they'll be there. They're going to be there, because on the other side, there's just more immense love. I mean, if you've ever been in love here with a son, a daughter, or a soulmate, or a cat, imagine that a billion times more. I mean, it's just infinite. Infinite love is real. It's we get such a small purity dose of it here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, we are on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. So on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio, streaming across America and Canada, and also on several internet platforms like YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Twitch today. But we have a lot of conversations on the show about, extraterrestrial beings, Star Nation people, highly evolved civilizations. And the one thing that they do know is this understanding of there is no death is part of their understanding. It's normal, right? It's normal. So there's been many conversations I've had with people where, like one of them was Susie Hansen, where she's up on a ship. She's a child. She's up on a ship and she's introduced to an orb, an energy orb. And the Greys have said to her, this will be your soul when you grow up and have a child. Get to know him, meet him, play with him. And so she's chasing this energy orb around the ship, this soul. And so there is an understanding that there is no death. There is just inserting an aspect of yourself into a life, either here on Earth or on another planet. It's a completely different understanding. What do you guys want to say about that? And hi to everyone that's listening. There's a couple of Dianes online, that Diane Orr and Diane Weatherall, loving the conversation. What do you want to say about our galactic brothers and sisters and their understanding of death or no death?
Well, I spent a lot of time with the Arcturians, and I didn't really know much about them because there's all these different Palladian. The Arcturians are very matter of fact and spiritual masters. They guide us if you're receptive to them. They can help us understand what we're going through, because they had already gone through it in their planetary scenarios.
Evolution. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, their evolution. And we also started to get introduced to the Lemurians and all of the different aliens, you know. But they basically just are trying to help Earth with this new shift that's happening. There's so much that's what was really nice. And I do have one video of the Arcturians. What was it? They were explaining that to not freak out, that this is a natural progression. The light will win. There'll be some density that you'll have to, endure and see. So that's where we started to talk about, being lighthouses and, emitting love and reassurance and not being any way wavered by any type of, things that are happening to this physical world. But Earth is shaking, it's expressing out its density, and so is the shift prior to this fifth dimensional shift that we're all going through. They're reassuring us that it's going to be okay. The light will win, and if there's a spiritual battle, I think there's kind of a the dark and the light tend to battle a little bit, but the light will win, and they reassure us that it will. Just got to stay on your path and not be wavered in any way. And most importantly, when you are really in these scenarios, like we're witnessing this, the storm that came through here, there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of despair. There's a lot of, it's the perfect ground for arguments and manifesting. You could just drop into negativity real fast. And so we have to stay compassionate, benevolent, listen to what the other needs are, and offer charity. And so it's interesting what we're going through here in this North Carolina zone of this Helena tropical hurricane. It's just watching the community come together is really beautiful. So us as light holders, or lighthouses or light workers, is to maintain that light, that love, that Jesus consciousness of not being wavered in the middle of a storm.
Yeah. Imagine a world where death, the understanding that there is no death was normal practice. Then the tragedies that happen, and because years ago, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, I asked my mob, I very reverently call my beings of light, or my spirit guides, the mob. I asked them, what is it that causes the most suffering on earth, and how can I address that? And what they said to me was, your understanding of death causes the most suffering on earth, because you don't understand what death is. And I'm like, okay. And, so I went through it early with my mum's transitioning, and then her coming to tell me that she wasn't dead. But yeah, I think that is an understanding that we all need to wrap our heads around, that there is no death, that this life experience is just one of many that the soul can have. Like who we are, again, back to the identity, who we are as souls, and not how we identify ourselves as humans. And I think that's something that the Arcturians, the Palladians, and, they've transcended out of their physical identities. And even though they're playing their roles as Arcturians or whatever flavor they are, they still understand that they are an extension of infinite intelligence that we call God or source or the creator, or they've got that down, don't you reckon?
Yeah.
Another I'm kind of going off on something else, was I had a brother that was killed in a car accident when he was 18 and I was 9, and so I experienced what Julie almost verbatim went through. And
wow.
So my mom sat me down and she said, Carrie, he's dead. And I just want you to know that you'll never see him again. And the interesting thing was, I remember when you're 9 years old, you're still kind of connected with the afterlife,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Yeah.
no, that's not true. I will see him again. She's like, no, I don't think you understand. He's gone. He will not be around. And no, Mom, he's not gone. And I was very adamant about it. And then later on, I lost another brother and then both parents. And so my mom and I, from the age 9, just started a spiritual dialogue, a 9-year-old kid and a mom that had lost her 18-year-old son. So we just had this conversation, and my mother was heavily into the Rosicrucians. And so that was really interesting to me because, they called it the occult back then. And so there's just been dialogue that's been going on through my entire life, which has really helped me to understand all of this, aliens and people that have died and came back, and they talk about their experience. And this is just has been an amazing experience that we're all, going through.
I heard you talk about on one of your shows, karma, how karma is speeding up and that we're all here sort of overcoming that karma that we've taken lifetimes and lifetimes to overcome. And as I said, my mum died when I was 16, and she's back, and she's like in her late 20s now. And watching her relive the things that she didn't get to live and overcome the things that she didn't get to overcome in that last life is really interesting. I've also witnessed my father and his 2 siblings reincarnate their children and come back in as a family unit all together. Sure. Because when they were alive, they all hated each other, and they didn't speak to each other for 30 years. And so they're all coming back. They're all back, and they're all related to each other. And it's just watching.
Reason to come back,
Yeah, and they're doing it all again. It's like they just anyway. What do you want to say about the evolution and the cessation of karma? I think I heard you say, Julie, also on one of your shows that some people, there is a period of time where their karma just finishes. And for me, that was about 10 or 12 years ago, where all the challenges that I seem to be going through just stopped. And I'm like, I said to them, what's going on? They said, you're done. You're finished. It's all done with your karma. Now get on with your work. And I'm like, wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you want to say about that? Karma.
I think you're right. We've been on a wheel of karma for a long time. Dolores Cannon talked about, so the light started to incarnate in. He used to be near the light, in the light, or far from the light, so that you could have different levels of experience of a human growth through a lifetime. Well, when we started incarnating in the light, we started to stop that wheel of karma, because you can't, like we've all been told that you can't, there's certain rules that apply here as to not infringe on free will. So when the light started to incarnate and keep that intact, it started to make it easier to draw everything back to the light. I saw a comment that someone put up here, the light is already won, we're catching up with it. Exactly. Yeah. The light has already won. Everything is going back to the light. Everything that is perceived dark is light. And so it is all going back, the Kali Yuga is coming to a tipping point, but it's going to all return to the light. It's just that some parts have been so distorted that it cannot harmonize or recognize the frequency of light within itself. So our job is to harmonize at that light, so that we can draw everybody out of the wheel of karma and let them remember that we incarnated to come here to experience the physical plane of existence through that heavenly kingdom experience that the beautiful waterfalls and the birds have and the love relationships, and to grow consciously with each other, not in opposition through duality. That's the fall from grace. But I do think that as we wake up and we can bring others to stop the wheel of karma, because it's all going to stop. Like At some point, it's all not going to continue because consciousness is evolving and the earth is shifting into another frequency and space. And so we're all going to get there anyways. At some point, the realities will be different. That's why we call it the shift. And there will be what's perceived. And some of us don't know, even myself, exactly how that moment will happen when the two realities shift. But as long as we are living here, we're no longer confused as to why we're here. We're here to be of service and to love and to be kind and benevolent. Those angelic characteristics, exemplify them, because that's who your true soul essence is anyways. So the more that you can just start the process, just start practicing kindness, start to be charitable, start to be generous, start to look at things not in opposition of, do I like this or do I like that, but can I be grateful for what I have? Can I surrender instead of argue? Can I love more in partnership? Now you're just starting to be more of who you truly are. And that is, we're all radiators of light. We're all solar panels. We're all come from the sun. So some of us have woken up to, we're no longer on the wheel of karma, and it does stop. Craig and I have said the exact same thing that you did, is this is no longer karma. This is charity. That's the other word that we've been using. Charity is one of the good virtues, but now it's just charity. How beautiful to not even bring up the word karma, but to start speaking the fifth dimensional love language, that what we are doing is charity towards one another.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting when you're constantly overcoming obstacles and challenges, and then all of a sudden all that stops. Like the overcoming, the striving stops, and the creation starts. It's like you start attracting rather than overcoming. It's such a different experience on planet Earth when that happens. But you do that by raising your vibe, like you say. You forgive everybody that you've had problems with. You clean up all the messes. Let go of all the hatred and resentment and judgment, and your life just changes. That just melts all that karma, right? Craig?
Yeah, and I think there's also an important thing which Julie and I were working on, is the Akashic record, or the life review. It's not necessarily just for when you transition. Oh, there comes the life review. You go through the tunnel. So our beings of light just told us, you can actually rewrite your life review. You can start to change the Akashic record. So do it now. And that kind of gets you to right out of karma. I think it just takes you right completely out. And you kind of start to go, oh, I'm triggered by something I said when I was 14. I said something very mean. And just like Dolores Cannon said, she said, just go inside and talk to that person and say, I'm really sorry. I did not mean it. And clean up all that stuff. Just clean it all up. And now you are becoming karma free, and you are clearing up your Akashic record, your life review, whatever you feel comfortable calling it. You're beginning to, actually write your life review in stream. And it's like, I had no idea. We had no idea that we could actually do that. So when, you look at the people that have died and came back, the first thing they were brought to is their life review. And God wasn't really interested in the accolades, the God was really interested in how you helped that one person. And let's go into that, and let's talk about how that one person that you helped rippled to all these different people, and how it affected so many people. And then you get to feel what they went through and how it helped them. And so when you become, more benevolent and more kind, and more compassionate, more empathetic, you automatically start to feel what the other person is feeling right in the stream. You have an interaction with somebody, and you could tell, you can see they're wanting to go down an argumentative path, and you say, let's be calm here. Let's figure this one out. And you try to reassure them that it's all going to work out. And you just kind of shift that. You can feel that energy just shift right then and there. And that's something that, Jesus taught us was, be a listener and be very aware of the other person. And I love the idea of observing and, answering when the questions arrive. But it's important for us. We have that opportunity to rewrite our life review now, right now, every single day. So if you consciously, and so when I spent all that time with all these people that died and came back, they just said, Craig, it's so important to be very aware of what you say, what you do, and all the actions that you do. It's going to create a life review. So you might as well just be good, just be kind, consider, just be good, just stop it. Don't be mean. There you are, karma.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. Just get out of that karmic wheel. Sooner the better. Sooner the better.
Instead of being judgmental, be curious. Like, we see stuff happening in the world, and
be the observer.
As humans, we go into judgment. This is right. This is wrong. This is bad. This is good. Judgment. And we can transcend that by, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why that happened. Like, I wonder what the life lesson is in that. I wonder what the ramifications of that, like death, like you said, Julie, like, had Dakota not transitioned, maybe you two wouldn't have found each other, and your other son made a house. And it's so many things can come out of what we call tragedy. And as humans, we tend to sort of talk about the tragedy instead of what could come out of this, like what are the lessons learned. So curiosity instead of judgment. Speaking of Dolores Cannon, I just want to say to everyone online too, I've got such an amazing audience. They're so into this, and most of them are teachers in themselves, so we never get too many questions, we just get comments. But if you have any questions for Julie and Craig about the afterlife or transcendence or ascension or new earth or anything, please pop your questions in, and we'll ask them. We'll bring them up on screen. But with all the people that you've interviewed in the afterlife or spoken to, did you speak to Dolores Cannon? Have you chatted to her? You've mentioned her a couple of times.
It's interesting. I've had conversations with all kinds of people, greats, masters, and everyday people. Dolores Cannon, we keep thinking that it's a person, and it's really just a collective consciousness. So we were watching, I don't know, it was a show on Lincoln, and we were kind of like talking about it and going on about it. And the next thing we know, it's like he's around, and it's just like, it's so amazing that they're so close, and there is no separation. We are all one. So it's just, they're all ready and available to listen and talk to you. If you just put that intent out, we would talk about Dolores Cannon, and she would just kind of correct it and say, oh, it's this or that. And we would just be like, it's so great being in a soulmate relationship, because you're like, did you just hear that? What was that? She's like, yep, I heard it too. And so, because all this stuff is just it's all about one, and see, that's the other thing too. I kind of explored the whole life plan thing and the whole duality and learning through separation and all this stuff. And and Buddha comes along and says to me that what did he say? You could learn through love. You don't have to learn through pain and suffering. Why? You could learn through love, and it's so true. You don't necessarily have to learn through pain and suffering anymore. When we're getting back into how we ascend here, and we're moving into the fifth dimension, the multidimensional human being, and that 3-dimensional way of learning that's then.
That's then. This is now. Yeah, I love that you say that, because I heard you say on one of your shows that everyone has to go through a dark night of the soul in order to spiritually awaken, but not necessarily. I've actually met many people who have spiritual awakening without going through any trauma. Actually, much of the younger generation, they're just into it. You know, the internet's out there, there are shows out there. They just come across a show, they're like, wow, that's really fascinating. I need to know more about that. And they're just like, their curiosity takes them down the rabbit hole instead of the tragedy taking them there. You know, like a lot of people like helping parents heal. That would be, and the book Awakened by Death is all about that. It's like the death experience is the doorway into your ascension process or your spiritual awakening, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. You can just awaken through curiosity. Yeah. Or come in awakened, like many of the kids, and teach your parents, like some of the kids. You know, many of the people on the show, one in particular, talk about how there is great cataclysm going to happen on planet Earth, and Earth's going to reset, and there's going to be like everyone's going to die, and then it's going to reset. What do your beings of light say about Earth's future and how we are moving to the next stage of evolutionary process? Do they say that we have to go through a big cataclysm, or is it going to be a smooth process? Like what have they said to you about all of this?
Well, so you can feel that there's something happening, and you know that the momentum is growing. So I think it's so human of us. Sometimes we say this, we got it from Cryon, but he says that's so human of you. I think the human part of us is kind of what gets people to shy away from the Bible, because there's some inspiration in there and it's divinely orchestrated, but then the human will add that control mechanism or that weave, that part that gets you to fall back into duality. So I think for the human part of us, we want to know, what is this thing that's going to happen and how is it going to happen? Well, you touched on it. Be curious, because we know that there's momentum and we feel it and we're part of it. I think it's fun to think of the 100 million ways that this could all take place, because in multidimensional reality, they're all correct. It could do anything that you could possibly conceive of.
Absolutely.
So I think that what it's going for is, if you can put the pieces together, that it is all light, that it's all going back to the light, and that it's all going in to a singularity point from which it all came, then you can understand that, like, I think I got this download, I shared it with Craig, and maybe it'll help people at this point of what I'm trying to explain is, like, there's a billion cells in your body, and yet there's one you acting and going for. So when we think of ourselves and we think of the collective and the world and the Gaia and everything that's accumulating up to this point, it's still going to be one transition that affects us all. And it's all going towards the light. So how that's going to play out is part of each individual reality doing its part of the collective whole body. So some of us will experience more states of bliss and comfort, while some of us could experience more tragedy and tyranny. But it doesn't necessarily, it's just so complicated to try to say what everybody's reality is going to play out. But everything is together. That's why we all feel connected in these podcasts and in this life that we're seeing, and the way that we're growing food, the way that we're experiencing the taste of certain fruits, and the way that we're seeing the colors, and the way that we're watching the grandchildren come in and how wise they are as an infant, and how people are changing around us. So if we can hold that collective, we are creating new Earth. So, and if there is an alien ship to go by and rescue us because it's getting all crazy, we're all going to be on it, because I'm not throwing out any of the good. I always joke around that. Like, I'm getting on it. Yeah. Okay. We're going to go. And the coolest thing that my life has taught me is that there's an innocence about me, or a naive, that I don't think I know it all, because it's the experiences why I was born at this time to go through this, was that little bit of innocent naivety that we all have about the big unwrapping of the present. But I think as long as you believe that it is going to be that present and you can hold that new earth desire, you're doing your part, and you're going to be a part of the fireworks or the celebration.
The split of the two dimensionals, the three, and the multi. Well, a lot of people call it the fifth dimension. The split. What is it going to be like? And it'd be two parallel universes, because there are some people that have just disappeared, and there are some people that have, like, you know. And I was like, I'm kind of one of those people. You know, we've kind of disappeared. And like you said, you know, you guys. Where have you guys been for the last 2 years? You know, we disappeared because we went into our study in our school. We went within, and that's what we did. But the light will eventually dominate, and it will take over. It's just going to happen. I know there was Nostradamus's prediction of Armageddon, and I think we missed that. And I'm so happy that we did. Because it could have went really weird here. And I know it seems like everything's pointing towards, you know, World War III and all this division and stuff like that. But it's going to, like Julie said, it's going to go back to light. And that's why our jobs as spiritual people, we need to hold that light, because, you know, it's kind of like, if you are a light in a room and darkness comes in, you won't see it. It doesn't exist. It's that simple. And one person can actually change that room of 100 darknesses. It illuminates light. It's kind of like the tunnel that the Death and Backers were saying. Because I asked, I said, why is everybody saying there's this tunnel? And it's really, you're going to the light. You're just seeing that demarcation of darkness to light. You're in total blackness going towards the light. So it's really, you're going towards the light. It's really not so much of a tunnel. It's just, you see the walls, which is the demarcation between light and dark. So that's what we are, is just hold that light. It's so important for us all to, you know, do our job as stewards of this earth, but to maintain and hold our light, no matter what the person is that's trying to agitate you, to hold that light.
Yeah. And not to worry about what's coming in the future. Stay in the now, stay in the light in the now. Look, they've been talking about a tsunami hitting the east coast of Australia for like 50 years, and people have moved to the mountains with their, you know, and stocked up on canned foods. It's been a long conversation. And I remember probably about 25 years ago, I went to an event. I was talking to Paul about it, actually. I'm trying to think of the biggest spiritual event that's ever happened in Sydney, because his will be there, the biggest spiritual event that's ever happened in Sydney of its kind. But yeah, it was an American event. It was brought out by Hay House, or even before Hay House. You know, Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay and Deepak Chopra and all the gang came out, and they did a tour up the east coast of Australia, and it was called Metaphysical Mastery. And I remember sitting in an event centre that's no longer there anymore with 9,000 people. And I thought, this is the tsunami that's hit the east coast of Australia. Like this spiritual tsunami came from America, and it hit us, you know, with all these speakers. I heard about feng shui for the first time. I had never heard about that. And heard Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay and all these fabulous people speak. That was my tsunami. But yeah, people, you know, have still tell me, you know, move away from the coast, move away from the coast. And I'm like, if a wave's going to wipe out the coast of Australia, it's taken me with it, because I'm not going anywhere, you know, because I'm not afraid of death. When you get over the death fear, then you're not worried about a future, what will happen, what, you know, will it happen, won't it happen? It's just like, you just live in the now. That's what the understanding of death, and that there is no death, is all about. You can just enjoy the now and not worry about the future. How cool is that?
Exactly.
It is, exactly. And you know, that the biggest thing that we weren't really sure what we were doing up here, building this physical manifestation that we've done. I mean, we kind of had a plan, but when the storm came and we weathered the storm with our creation, it taught us what we were doing up here these last 2 years, because the storm came and we weathered it in such a unique way with what we built. And it was our testament that now when we go into our next journey and our next phase, there's so much to share about that, because and it made sense, because that showed us what New Earth is going to be like. You create it, you form it, and you hold the frequency of it, and you will be, your experience of outside reality will be different than others. And so if that's what you have, and what everything that we've done, the Council of Light showed us the things that we did was done in good consciousness. And because of that, nature respected us. And I'm not saying, I'm not speaking anyone else's truth. Please do not think that we're not doing our charity and our part of our community, but our reality experience, because we infused every board. We wrote words in our foundation. We did it with each other. We built all of this in conscious awareness. And when the storm came and we were going through the storm, no wind, because we strategically left trees around the perimeter. We diverted water. So we respected, when we came onto this land, we had all these intentions. And when the storm went by, it was like nature honored and respected all of that consciousness into this creation. So that's what New Earth is built upon. And if we do that, whatever form of reality you find yourself, it's going to mirror that back to you in a catastrophic event, or in the big cataclysmic thing that happens. It's what Jesus said, you create that kingdom, and that kingdom will be recognized by all. Even Buddha, the snails crawled up on top of his head to keep his head warm, because they felt the love emulating from him. I mean, how beautiful of a story that the snails would do. They would give their life to give warmth to another creature that they recognized. That's the Buddhist teaching. So that immense compassion and creative manifestation is what we are capable of. We're capable of that.
Yeah, beautiful. I know. Yeah, Susan says here, the more we heal, the less things like catastrophes resonate. Yeah, catastrophes happen. I had an angel channeler on the show last year talking about a lot of predictive stuff. And she did talk a lot of catastrophes. And I think that 2024 has been the year of catastrophe. There have been like even Dubai flooded, the desert. But I did hear that they did it to themselves. Apparently they were cloud seeding, and it went terribly wrong, and the clouds, like, it just flooded. So that was man-made flooding. Did you hear that? Anyway, I thought that was really interesting. Did you hear that about Dubai?
No, but it doesn't surprise me. I know that they were going to be doing that, manipulating weather, and and that there's going to be some interesting things that come from that.
Pear shape, yeah. But weathering the storm. Oh, guys, we are coming up. We've got about 7 minutes left of the show. Anything? Are you going to come down under next year? Love to have you down here.
We are. We are definitely coming to Australia.
It's a long way, I know, for you guys, but because I have a big American audience, maybe if you've always wanted to visit Australia, come around June next year and come to the Afterlife convention, and you can meet a whole lot of people that are into this conversation like you are, and see Australia. Well, if you come down, you have to go to Uluru. Sydney's the best place, of course, but no, every part of Australia is pretty amazing. I have to say, it's an incredible land. It's big. You can't do it all in 1 week, I can tell you that. Have you been before? You've never been?
No.
It's pretty beautiful. We do have ley lines
that are there.
Yeah. We just had our chart done, and we have these ley lines, the two of us, that go right through Australia. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So we're very much excited to see what we feel and what the experience is there, because it's in our astrological charts.
Well, years ago, I was facilitating groups every Monday night, spiritual groups. And I remember a guy came out from England. I think it was him. He was talking about apports. Do you know what apports are? When things just drop out of the sky, they drop from another dimension, like old
yeah.
keys and money. And I had a friend, Marcus. I've lost touch of Marcus. And we were in IANS groups. Another friend, Nicole Gruel, who's one of the speakers of the Afterlife, she started IANS in Sydney, but COVID knocked that out. And he gets apports all the time. And we were in a group together, and a little green crystal dropped out of the sky. Because I was saying, show me all the things that have fallen out of the sky. And he was showing me, and he says, there you go, that's for you. So I've directly experienced these apports. But anyway, I'm getting off track. So this English guy said to me, I said, what do you think of Australia? And he was talking about what he was feeling energetically. And he said, there's a freedom and a spaciousness I felt on this land that I haven't felt anywhere in the world. And I thought to myself, yeah, I guess that's true, because we're a very small population on a very big land mass. And so there, we do have horrible history, a lot of it, but not as much as like Europe or even the America or the South Americas, or Asia, not as much as the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So there is a freedom down here that you can tap into if you want to, or you can be in your drama in your head, your choice, whatever you want to do. And it's an
Awesome.
amazing land. Well, you guys are amazing. Let me just share before we go. Let me share the website. Anything else you want to share with people? What am I trying to do here? Share screen. I've got your website here. So this is what you'll find on the website, Life to Afterlife. You've got the movies and your stories. Yeah, soulmates. And about Julie, about Craig. And I think there's a beautiful thing that you wrote about Dakota, which I'd love you to share. Where is it? I think it's here. Where is it? This thing here. Do you want to share that, Julie, before we go?
Yeah, that's to summarize the story, or?
Yeah, here are the words from the officer. He's gone. On the day my son died was the moment that I made a split decision to embody the higher perspective when it felt nearly impossible to bear my very reality. Do you want me to read it? Can you see it?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
I accepted two things on that day. First, that I knew she meant that Dakota was no longer breathing, and I accepted that, but I refused to accept the words, he's gone. I knew that wherever his journey was now taking him, I would follow. I felt the power of my love for him extending past the very event of his death, and I allowed the purpose of it and faced it, that the most unimaginable thing was now my journey. I wanted to understand where he was continuing his journey, and that gave me my strength, where I discovered my purpose. I kept my heart open despite the pain, and the portal was shown to me, a portal that took me into a field. Oh, I can't get through this without crying, George. A field of grace where all knowing exists. It was there that I found not only my divinity, but Dakota's. This is our story. His transition became my transcendence. Dakota has shown me the staircase to the divine realms. No, I can't get through it. The way of the heart, the way of the heart and the truth. There is no separation. We are souls that came from pure love and light. And within you is the kingdom of unconditional love, from which you all are. You are never separated from. Oh, my God. I'm a mess. Anyway. That's on the website. So beautiful.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting about that picture? If you scroll up, I did the exact opposite. If you scroll up to this picture there, I made me in my soul body and my hand on him, even though he's in his soul body. Yeah. That's a giant poster of him that I had made, and I took the picture and I made me absent over him. And I did that like in the second week that he passed. I gave the camera to
We've run out of time, so we have to go. Big love to all of you. Thanks for everyone who's joining, and we will see you. Stay online. I want to chat to you after. We'll see you down under next year. Bye for now.
Bye.